So welcome everyone to this presentation by AI Sweden and our soft landing program we're hosting together with Business Sweden, both here in Canada, but also in Sweden, and together, of course, with our partners. And today it's the Zenseact Day. We'll have a presentation by Benny Nilsson, who's joining us from Gothenburg or from Alingsås to talk about some of the strategic challenges for Zenseact and how Zenseact can work with startups. So the agenda is as follows. We'll do a short hi and welcome here for everyone joining us. We'll do a short presentation of the Canadian soft landing program, or our soft landing program made by me and Alexander. And then the other Alexander representing Business Sweden will talk about the Swedish business environment. So things that's really good to know when you're looking to target Sweden and the Nordics, and using Sweden as a way to enter the European market. We're also going to talk a bit about what it means for Swedish startups, for example. So help you to maybe partner up or collaborate with Swedish startups to really understand the market even better. And then the last half hour or the last 35 minutes, we're going to spend together with Benny Nilsson to understand Zenseact and understand Zenseact's different challenges, or what they're trying to solve, and how they work with startups. And then we'll finish everything off with a Q&A session. And as always, when we're doing webinars, please feel free to ask any questions. You can use the chat. You can just raise your hand or unmute yourself if there's anything that's unclear. And we'll make this really informative and try to engage as many of you as possible. So really, to give you a brief overview to AI Sweden and why we're doing this. So AI Sweden's mission is really to accelerate the use of AI to strengthen our benefits and for the benefit of our society, and strengthen our competitiveness and everyone living in Sweden. So we're really working with both private and public sector, and we truly believe that using AI or using machine learning in different applications can make us a better society, but also help our industry become more competitive on the global market. And to do so, as Sweden is a small country, we can not only work with research and startups in Sweden. We need to be international, and we need to look for global partnerships. So that is why we're in Canada, or I'm based in Canada, but we're also scouting for innovation, for research, for startups globally, to really help partner up with some of our most interesting and multinationals and corporates to really help them drive development and help them adopt innovation, especially in the area of AI and machine learning. And we, as AI Sweden, we're a national center for applied AI. We're neutral, we're non-profit, initiated by the government, but we work with extensive partnerships in both private and public sector. So we're really all over Sweden, and it's really good for us that within this program, we can also work through Business Sweden and through Alexander's work on-site in Sweden, work with non-partners as well. So it's really representing the entire country of Sweden. And as you can see here, we're really national, truly national. We're all over Sweden. So whether you're interested in agriculture, in mining, that's up north, in advanced manufacturing, that is a lot of the mid and south Sweden, if it's energy optimization, or as we're going to talk about today, autonomous driving or autonomous vehicles, Sweden definitely has potential customers for you as a startup or as a scale-up, but also if you're doing research. So that is why we really want you to partner up and team up with us so that we can help our sector and our industry become more competitive. And this is our current partner network. We work with everything from startups up to our biggest multinational companies like the Volvo Group, like Scania, but we also have big tech involved, so we can offer a partnership through them and help you connect with them to become more to understand the business environment and understand what type of technical infrastructure you may need. But we also have access to talent. We have partners in the academic sphere. We have some of the, or almost all of the Swedish universities. So if you're interested in setting up shop in Europe or in Scandinavia, Sweden is definitely a place to do so, because there's access to talent and also access to a lot of domain knowledge. And we have the public sector. So for example, healthcare is going to be one of the focus areas for this program too, later in the spring. So we'll definitely try to open up doors there. But today we want to focus on automotive, and what we can do there is to really help you getting in contact with our partners. For example, Zenseact that you will hear from today is one of our partners. It's probably one of our more advanced partners looking into really how to drive or how to develop autonomous driving systems or autonomous vehicles. And what we do together with our partners is really creating a partner network that we invest in shareable knowledge and shareable resources. This program being one of them. So it's targeting you startups, but it's also helping our partners get in touch with you so that they can understand what is going out outside of their own organization in terms of development. So really it's about helping everyone involved and becoming stronger together. And that's how we drive leadership. I'm now based in Montreal, so if you're a Canadian startup or scale up, you will have me as your main point of contact. And if you're based in Sweden, Alexander Brunner here, my colleague working out of Stockholm, will be your main contact. So feel free to reach out for us at any or to us at any point in time, because we're really here to help you and to guide you to the Swedish ecosystem. We have a lot of established relationships, and some of you might come through some of these relationships. We work very closely here in Montreal with Mila and the ecosystem in and around Mila. We also work with Vector Institute in Toronto and DMC, but nowadays we have also started working closer to Alberta, and both with Amy in Edmonton, but also reaching out and looking into exploring more opportunities in Alberta and together with Alberta Innovate. So we're going on at it from a Canadian perspective too, but it's also to really help both the Canadian side, but also the Swedish side come in contact with you guys. And we do a lot of different initiatives. So, but the main focus here is really the soft landing and scale up attraction to Sweden. We'll hear more about how our partners in terms of Zenseact this time, Scania next time, and for the last session in December, that will be decided later. That we will announce who of our partners that will present that in just 1 or 2 weeks over here. But it's really about soft landing and scale up attraction. So what we want to do is to help you get in touch with Swedish potential customers, and also through this webinar series make you understand them better. So what are they looking for? How do you collaborate in a good way with them? What's the entry points? Who should you talk to? And also together with Business Sweden, understanding the business environment in Sweden, because that can be a bit different. There's procurement processes to understand and sales cycles. So that is why we also have Business Sweden with us that can explain that too. We do also applied projects. So one of the opportunities can also be to partner up with AI Sweden if you're an international startup. We do applied AI projects within natural language understanding. So we have our own applied AI research team looking into building large-scale language models for the Swedish language. We do a national project called Information-Driven Healthcare. So we have access to all the public healthcare providers over in Sweden and through the regions. So if there's an interest in healthcare, we are a good entry point, especially in terms of machine learning services or products. Definitely team up with us. And then we have an ongoing project in climate change together with our partners once again. So we're forming a group in climate change to really drive machine learning adoption and really climate action with machine learning adoption. And we see a lot of interest from our partners in this space, driving more like sustainable solutions for both now and the near-term future. And then we have our Edge Learning Lab, where Zenseact is one of the main partners to that, really looking into how we're using AI on the edge, what we do in terms of data sharing, looking especially into decentralized AI and federated learning. So really, if you're in any of these spaces, we are a really good entry point to the Scandinavian market for you. And the overall ambition of this program is obviously to inform you about Sweden. It's to open up Sweden as an opportunity, but also a chance for you to visit Sweden, visit Stockholm or Gothenburg or any of our nodes, so that you can get more of a personal relationship and personal contact with the people involved on the ground, both at AI Sweden, but especially in our partner organizations to this program. So we are aiming to have a delegation in Sweden in January. This can be flexible with traveling nowadays, but it will definitely happen early next year. And then you'll have the chance to meet companies like Zenseact and Volvo and also Polestar and Ericsson and Scania. So it's really, if you're in the mobility sector or automotive sector, Sweden is really a good potential market and a playground for innovation for you. Talking more about the program and what we're doing with why we're talking about a soft landing program. Obviously, we've made a choice that Canada is an important and interesting partner for Sweden to really become more competitive and strengthen our both public and private sector. What we want to do is therefore take the chance to really look into what the effects of investments are in the Canadian AI ecosystem. And we truly believe that AI adoption, one crucial part in driving adoption of AI is through startups. It's through startups and scale-ups that are learning how to implement their solutions in a, let's say, bigger context. So could be corporates, it could be governments, it could be other aspects of or other sides of public sector. But it's really to help them understand what you can help them with. So we want to attract international talent. We want to attract some of the most interesting and innovative Canadian scale-ups to Sweden and introduce you to Swedish corporates and public sector. And by doing that, we believe that their innovation will accelerate. So that's our main goal in doing this. So, but one thing that is also sort of risen up here during the last couple of weeks when we've been working on this is also to give you a chance to work together with partners in Sweden. It might be other startups or other scale-ups, and that you together with them can become stronger, that you together with them can team up and have an even stronger offer to potential customers. We see that with a couple of Swedish startups now targeting the Canadian market, for example, in mining and in paper and pulp optimization. And we want to offer you the same chance to do that in Sweden, of course. So if you're a Canadian startups or scale-ups, we might have different potential solutions for you. And this webinar series, this is the first webinar in this series. We're going to do 3 events until early November. Today we're going to hear from Zenseact. On November the 23rd, we're going to hear from Scania. And then we're doing the last one before we're going into sort of like Christmas highlights there in early December on the 7th of December. So obviously you're here, so I'm really looking forward for this webinar series, for different questions, everything related to Sweden and how we can help both Swedish startups but also Canadian startups accelerate in the Nordics, is this because that's our main interest here. So that's all for me, and I want to hand over to you, Alexander, to talk a bit more about what they're getting into, looking at Sweden, looking into the business environment in and around Sweden.
Thank you very much, Peter. So let me just share my screen, and here we go. Tell me, Peter, if I'm showing the right presentation mode.
You're now showing your notes, so let's do the same thing again. There we go.
Not really. Well, let's see again. Sorry. Display settings like so, I think.
There we go.
There we go. So before looking into the business environment, I think it's beneficial to have a short flyby of what Sweden is and what we have, and what sectors are interested in, and why Sweden is a interesting country doing business in, and delving into new opportunities. My name is Alexander Morone, and I work as a program manager at Business Sweden. We are a governmental agency supporting foreign companies entering Sweden. But more about our purpose at the end of this presentation. So if you come to join Sweden, you will be having committed companions, focusing on finding the best solutions together with you. We are a country of innovation. That's our tradition. It's no coincidence that Sweden was ranked the most innovative country last year. And also Stockholm is has the highest number of unicorns per capita in the world after Silicon Valley. So we have a long history of producing world-class companies, and we believe that collaboration and transparency makes this happen. Close cooperation and a common agenda for corporations, academia, and government makes an excellent breeding ground. And this long history of productive industry has generated companies such as Tetra Pak, Volvo, Ericsson, AstraZeneca, IKEA, and H&M. I guess you recognize several of these companies here in this picture. Today, we also have one of the highest manufacturing productivity in Europe. As I said, collaboration and transparency makes it happen. And we believe that in our culture, built on the idea that together is better, we prioritize R&D and develop through collaboration. Together with academia, government, and industry, that's better way to do it. Through academic excellence, we have world-leading universities. We're also the birthplace of the Nobel Prize. Being part of the EU is also beneficial in strengthening the IP processes, and also it gives us a stronger geographical coverage throughout Europe. So where are we then? We are an excellent place for doing business. We provide you with access of a prosperous domestic market, the Nordics being a market of 27 million consumers, a part of the European Union with 27 countries and 500 million consumers. Sweden accounts for a major share of both the consumer and economic activities in the Nordics, and Stockholm is the business and financial center of Northern Europe. Sweden is a global economy. 50% of our GDP comes from exports, and 50% of those exports are generated by foreign-owned companies. 17,000 foreign-owned companies employ 1 in 5 people in the private sector. And Stockholm is also Europe's 3rd biggest hub for global headquarters, home to 22 global multinational corporations. That's 85% of all the headquarters in Stockholm. We're also one of the largest recipients of foreign direct investments, the highest levels in the EU. When you come to Sweden, you will be joining a cutting-edge team, and we have a workforce which It's very well educated and internationally renowned for competence and high productivity. English proficiency is very high throughout Sweden. Minecraft is one good example of a success story that we have. Entering beta version in 2011 with 1 million purchases. Last year it had 140 million active users. We believe that we have a key to success here in Sweden. You start here, then you scale, then you grow internationally, and then you repeat. We have our strong capabilities in innovation and R&D, leveraged together by world-leading multinationals. This fast-growing tech startup scene, one of the fastest growing in the world, breeds a lot of unicorns. And companies such as Skype and Spotify, Klarna, they have all sprung up from Stockholm's startup scale-up scene. And now they offer, in turn, experience and leadership and inspiration for other companies that are getting ready to take on the world. Yeah, we are an innovation powerhouse. We are high on many international rankings. Stockholm is also the most innovative region in Europe. As I mentioned, Stockholm has the highest number of unicorns per capita in the world after Silicon Valley, but we also have one of the highest survival rates for startups. 74% of startups survive their first 3 years in Sweden. And this vibrant startup ecosystem is also a result of the community and the support it gets to support entrepreneurs and business owners to scale their business with a low risk and low cost. We're also born sustainable, grow your company here in a sustainable way. We have a national goal of becoming fully green, fully sustainable. Of course, economic incentives and policy play a big role. We were one of the first countries in the world to introduce a carbon tax in 1991. Close to all of our electricity is from fossil fuel-free sources, and 60% is from renewables, among the highest in the EU. We also have a very safe place, resilient economy, stable public finances, sound banking system, makes Sweden a very predictable place to run business and live in. It means living in Sweden, being a part of a well-functioning welfare society. The quality of housing and education and healthcare is excellent. We also have a good scope for balancing career with family life. And in most part of the country, there's also a large place for free space and easy access to outdoor activities. We are one of the least corrupt countries in the world and ranked 4th globally. For instance, we have also very high productivity is assured by excellent working conditions, exemplified by very few days on strike compared to other countries. So let's just short focus on some key industry areas that could be of interest to you. All these are important sectors for the green and digital transformation. All have a lot to offer and can serve as a springboard for international companies. Energy, as mentioned, is a home to some leading innovations in critical areas. Also, it's a leading fast-growing battery cluster growing in both northern Sweden and south. Transportation is something that we have a strong heritage in. The automotive industry is now transforming into a new area of electromobility and autonomous driving. Automotive sector is Sweden's largest export industry, and we are at the forefront of innovation and R&D in autonomous driving, e-mobility, road safety, and so on. A few examples of some innovations that drive the shifts to sustainable transportations. aerospace, personal transportation, public transportation on water, and efficient autonomous logistics. We have also heritage of manufacturing in Sweden with a skilled workforce, long experience of working with international corporate groupings. Automation is something that's very extensive, and there's a culture of productivity enhancement. Sweden is rich in natural resources, but we're also pioneering the development of new materials. And the Swedes are quite known for being early adopters. We have 10 million early adopters in Sweden. So why not try out your product here? We are leading in several fields, music, film, fashion, design, and gaming. Spotify being one clear example of a successful scale-up and unicorn. Of course, life science is very important in Sweden. We have a world-class life science ecosystem, and combined with the advanced digital infrastructure and the digital readiness, we are driving innovations in the healthcare systems. So probably we have a future of medicine is both digital and personalized. Digital innovation is obviously crucial for sustainable development and growth in creating even smarter societies. And here we offer perfect conditions for cross-sector collaboration. Digitalization and sector convergence are driving innovation, and collaboration between government, academia, SME, and large multinationals is something that's very uncommon outside of Sweden. As business owner, doing business is hard, but doing business in and from Sweden is easier. A key feature of the Swedish economy is our openness and liberal approach to trade and investments, and also our strong support for free trade agreements. Our business environment here is international, modern, and open business friendly. We welcome companies to join and to partner with us to lead to a global change. So a transparent system with very little bureaucracy, no restrictions on foreign ownership or operations. We have skilled professionals, smooth business procedures, easy country to operate in. We have all information on starting a company. It's very quick and straightforward. Information in English. And as I mentioned, high English proficiency throughout the country. So I'm glad to say that international companies in Sweden often praise the quality of local advisors and business partners, and that's something that we do. Business Sweden, we help Swedish companies to grow global sales, but also international companies to come to Sweden and to invest and to expand. That includes forging new partnerships, strategic alliances between companies and other stakeholders. We at Business Sweden, we are owned by the Swedish government, represented by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we're headquartered in Stockholm. But we have offices around Sweden and also around the globe, around 40 offices covering the entire world with 400 employees. So I hope this was inspiring and also shed some light on some of your questions. Thank you so much for your attention, and I look very much forward to welcoming you to Sweden, and I shall be very happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alexander. And please feel free to use the chat for any type of questions. But with that said, let's jump right over to the main actor in this room, the industry in itself. And Benny, please feel free to join us.
Yep. Share my presentation. You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. And the presentation looks okay?
Yes, it looks perfect.
Perfect. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Benny Nilsson, and I am the head of emerging technologies at Zenseact. And so part of the job I have is to meet startups, scale-ups, and other companies, look into their technologies, start projects, evaluating them, and if you have something really interesting to provide to our development, then we start integration projects to get it into to the Zenseact software portfolio. I also run internal proof of concept projects where we look into new technologies. And so where does Zenseact come from? Our motivation is that every year around the world, there is about 1.3 million fatal accidents on roads and around 50 million injuries and serious injuries each year. And where does Zenseact come into this? We are a automotive software company. We focus primarily on autonomous drive functions, both supervised and unsupervised. I'll go into more detail what that means later, but also pure safety ADAS functionality. Our primary owners are Volvo cars, and this is where the previous slides come in. You probably heard about Volvo cars, that they have a very strong focus on safety. And this is something that we have in our heritage from Volvo cars, in our DNA, you could say. So our vision within Zenseact is that we want to reach 0 fatalities and 0 injuries on road as fast as possible. And the way we do this is with advanced technology. So the Zenseact team, we're about 500 employees. We have office in, well, our primary office is in Gothenburg. We also have a small office in Shanghai and a small presence in Silicon Valley. A lot of our focus is on machine learning, machine vision, perception, and so on. We have around more than 60 deep learning engineers and more than 150 perception experts. And the heritage we have from Volvo cars is about 10 or more world first when it comes to active safety systems. You can see a list of them here. So we have, through our owners, we have a very strong heritage when it comes to building safer vehicles and reducing accidents on roads. So the main product that we are developing is something called the Zenseact One Pilot. It's a single software package with what we call 3 different modes. The different modes are the drive. It's what you traditionally see as ADAS functionality, like automatic emergency brake systems, lane keep, and so on. We also have what starts getting into what some people call autonomous drive. It's the cruise. It's a supervised function, so it relieves the work you have to do driving mainly on motorways and highways, but the driver is still legally responsible for the vehicle. And then we have the final product, which is called Ride, which is unsupervised autonomous drive function. Yes, and let's see how to, yeah, so automotive industry is changing, especially with electrification of vehicles, and as more and more vehicles are also using centralized compute. What we see is that we are developing in kind of the same direction as the smartphone industry. Traditionally, if you look at, for example, when Nokia and other actors, Ericsson as well, were large at the mobile phone industry, you had specialized hardware with more or less a firmware running on the phone, which was very difficult to update, and it wasn't really a living ecosystem. We've traditionally had the same kind of way to handle software within the automotive industry, that we have very specialized ECUs running the different ADAS functionality, and the only time you do any kind of update to those systems is more or less going to do a service on the vehicles, which happens very rarely. We're now moving into a much more centralized compute unit with over-the-air capabilities. So what we see is that the platform is changing. It's becoming more and more about the services that is running on the vehicle, not the vehicle itself, just like you see how smartphones has developed. Early mobile phones, you could call on them and send text messages. Then iPhone entered the market, created an open ecosystem, and other players started. And what we saw was that the companies that had the best ecosystems with third-party developers was the platforms that survived. So one example of that is, for example, Windows phones that didn't manage to get the third-party developers working in that ecosystem, and it died out. So this is something that we are seeing the same development in automotive. Therefore, we are building a standardized software platform with open APIs, where the foundation is our own software with the safety functions that will never be changed out. But on those platforms, then you can come with other kinds of services, both from us and third parties, like perhaps you. And connected together with that, we also are building subscription models. So it can be anything from, for example, if you're going on a very long trip, you might buy 1 or a few weeks of full autonomous drive, so you don't have to do the tedious driving on your own. But in the end, the fundamental safety functions, they will never be a subscription. They will always be active in the vehicles. So then we have the challenge of actually building the platform to enable this. So we are working very closely together, as I mentioned, Volvo Cars, but also Polestar. And all of the vehicles that are being sold with our systems in them will be fully AD ready from the factory. That means that they will have centralized compute, very high functioning LiDAR from California. I think it's California Luminar. We have many cameras, radars, etc. So even if you buy one of our vehicles with only the ADAS functionality, it will have the hardware capabilities to run full AD. And this is where the service business model comes in. And one reason why we want to have the same hardware on all of the vehicles is to avoid something that we called variant hell, where you over time get more and more variations in hardware and a larger degree of your development times actually go to maintaining those variations. So we build a very strong basic foundational hardware where basically more or less all of the vehicle use that. And when we do changes to the hardware, it's not incremental updates, it's significant generational updates. So it will be more rare, but when we do it, it will be bigger changes. Together with this, we also have an over-the-air update cadence of every 6 weeks, where the users of these vehicles will see continuous improvements. And those improvements will primarily come from insights that we do with the customer fleet that we have sold. I will come in more on this later. Yeah. So the roadmap we actually launched the Volvo Car EX90 just a few hours ago today. And a few weeks ago, there was a Polestar launch with our software in it. So we're just beginning to enter the market right now. And the plan we have is that with the vehicles coming onto the market, we will use them to both gather more data needed to improve our AD development. We can also run dark launches on those vehicles to test the functionality before activating them within the vehicles. And then after a while, when we have done that, we will launch our autonomous drive functions in California, mostly because of legal reasons. And when we have that in place and we have this continuous loop where we learn from the fleet, we will slowly expand and grow that beyond California. So this comes to the core of it, the engine that drives these 6-week updates. And this is where our real challenge and opportunities comes in. So we can start with what we have written here as the fleet insight. It's functionality within the customer fleet of vehicles that it's software running within those vehicles that identifies relevant information that or data that goes into the vehicles. It might be something that the sensors has seen that we haven't seen before, that is important to improve our AI models. It might be scenarios where something happens. For example, you might drive through an intersection and the way other road occupants behave might be something new that we can learn from. So all of these different events that can happen on the road, we want to identify and send to the cloud, which we then can use to improve the performance, both our perception, but also decision and control. We also have, so this is kind of the event trigger part. We also have a different part that we call probe sourcing. So we might analyze our algorithms and see that, for example, we have difficulties with pedestrians in red shirts or bicyclists or whatever. Then we also have functionality where we can send specific requests to the fleet to search for that specific information to a larger degree as well. Also within our cloud services, we have our connected features like the high definition maps that is needed for our AD functionality. So when we run in AD, we need to have a continuous updated map information sent to the vehicle. It's where we more or less view the map as an extra sensor giving us a redundancy. We then go into the data analysis part, where we gather all of the you can call it triggers, the events that we have seen over the last months. We then have to, for example, improve our deep neural networks with that. And then we have the challenge, how do we do that with a very short cadence? For example, generating the annotations needed. We need to be able to do the safety validation very quickly. Also, if we see that we have encountered new scenarios, new behavior, we need to update those decision and control algorithms in a very quick way. When we've done all of those changes, we need to very quickly validate that the software is safe. And then from all the different parts that we have done up improvements, we need to automatically integrate it into a new software update and push it out to the fleet again, and everything starts again. But of course, if it would have been only like this, it would have been fairly simple. As you probably know, there are many different, for example, privacy laws coming into effect. We have GDPR in Europe and other similar regulations in other countries and regions. So which, for example, prohibits us to move all the data we're interested in from the vehicles to the cloud, where we can use, for example, professional annotators to do work for us. And this is where edge learning, federated learning comes in, that we're very interested in. If we cannot move the data, is it possible for us to actually improve with the data still remaining in the vehicles? But then we have the new challenge, how do we generate ground truth within the vehicle so we can update our AI? So all of these are, to a large degree, open questions, I would say, that we're very interested to hear where innovative companies might have ideas how to solve this. So we have the edge learning case, but then we also have, for example, regions. We probably know that it's very difficult to move data from China to Europe. And then we have another variation of federated learning, what we call cross-silo, where we want to have a distributed learning between different data centers throughout the world. And this is also not completely solved how to do it most efficiently yet. Another interesting aspect that we're looking into when it comes to AI is what we call the Deep Learning 2.0 project, where we are looking into how we can make our AI models more end-to-end. Not completely end-to-end, but one example would be the detection AI that we're running in the vehicles. Can we also integrate the tracking part into those models? And thus, for example, removing Kalman filters or other ways to do that. Because if we look historically, expert systems tend to have poorer performance than trained systems. So it's very interesting to look into those aspects as well. So a lot of innovation is needed. And so here are examples of the ecosystems and collaborations that we actively have right now. As I mentioned before, we have Volvo Cars and Polestar that are our main customers at this point. Tensrai is a spin-off perception company that came from one of our offices before. Luminar, high-performing LiDAR. We're working with NVIDIA as our main centralized compute unit. But one I want to highlight is Mobility X Lab here. Probably not heard about it. Mobility X Lab is a collaboration platform between industry in Sweden, where so it's us, Zenseact, Ceph, Ericsson, Polestar, Veoneer, Volvo Trucks, and Volvo Cars. And it's a platform where startups can apply, and the partner companies, we run collaborative projects together with the startups because it's much more efficient for everybody if we try to collaborate and not everybody is doing their own thing. And so this is actually have been a big change in the automotive industry over the last few years. Traditionally, automotive has been very traditional that we want to solve everything by ourselves. But when AD became more and more relevant, we realized that it's too complicated to do everything in-house. We have to collaborate between each other. So that's where I want to end.
And thank you so much, Benny. Just to follow up on the presentation, in terms of looking on how you're working with startups, because you're working through the Mobility X Lab platform.
So this is one example. It's not only those, but I wanted to highlight that because it shows the mindset change that has happened in Sweden over the last few years, that many of these large companies have opened up both to collaboration, but also being more open about what we are doing.
Looking at your experience in this platform and also like talking to you meeting a lot of startups, what would be your recommendation for startups that want to work with Zenseact, or the things that they have a potential solution that could fit into the Zenseact platform or ecosystem?
My recommendation would be to develop something more specific. This we also have seen that the startups have matured some years ago when the AI craze was really big and everybody believed that AD would be here next year. That was like 5 years ago. There was a lot of startups that said that they had more or less solved AD, or they had full perception stacks and so on, which isn't really that interesting, because what if they would actually have such a product, Zenseact wouldn't be needed. So we are more interested in specific innovations and solutions that solve the really difficult questions.
So you will be the app store and then building solutions in the app store, obviously connected to the entire hardware stack. But
so it's both. The app store is something that we are actively working in, that will come a little bit further ahead in the future, especially as more and more compute becomes available within the vehicles. And we see that these platforms are more and more standardized in the hardware they are running, but also the operating systems and so on. So it's a natural evolution that you want to bring in third-party software. It might be that in the region that you are living, you have some specific provider for charging, for example, that is not global, but it's the best in that region, and being able then to run their app within the vehicle to automate, for example, the charging and the fees and so on, simplify your life so much. So we have to enable this within the vehicles in the future. So this is one part where we see we need to make this ecosystem alive, because that is actually what will create the value for the customer. But then, of course, we have the more safety critical systems, which will be more controlled by us. Where we also, as I mentioned, there are open questions where we need innovation and help.
It's a super interesting role that Zenseact is taking on, also building this for the entire industry. Do we have any questions from the audience or the participants? No, it doesn't seem like it. It was so crystal clear, so that everything is just open doors from here now on.
It was really bad.
Yes, the question.
Sure. I just unmuted. Is that okay?
Yes, obviously. Yes.
Hi, Benny. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to know, is your platform, your integration platform, are you looking to expand, let's just say, in the form of a smart road? So, for example, a separate layer that other third-party software, let's say someone like that's driving a Tesla, that they're able to, when let's say they're traveling to a different region, they're able to kind of connect and bootstrap into your or Zenseact's integration platform.
I'm not following completely. So are you meaning that you would use our, for example, perception stack within a Tesla, or the communication between vehicles, or can you explain?
So for example, instead of the cars communicating with just cars, the building upon a road. So for example, the smart road. So sensory will be happening at the road level.
Okay. So like almost like a digital twin setup, or?
That would be an aspect of it, yes. But mostly really a smart road with cars with different, because there's so many different car companies, there's so many different types of software. Is Zenseact looking to build, I would say, what am I looking here? And it's are you trying to build a kind of like a home where companies can, or different types of software can jack into, in lay speak?
For safety critical applications, we don't have any plan for that. When it comes to more user comfort functions, then that is something we would definitely be open to. The challenge, if you want to, for example, share information when it comes to safety critical aspects between different manufacturers, is that how do we trust data from an external party and act upon that data with very little insight into everything, from what their the sensors that they're using to the software. So yeah, I would say that it's the exact same challenge actually with vehicle-to-vehicle communication, that how do you share critical information between vehicles and maintain some kind of trust in that data and quality, so you can really trust the data and act upon it. So I would say that is the challenge. How do you make that handshake to give trust to someone who do not really know where you're coming from, so they can act on that data?
Probably by developing a different dimensionality. Somewhat like clustering.
Yeah, that is a super interesting area, and I know, for example, that there has been when vehicle-to-vehicle communication was the rage some years ago, we made some simulations about the potential benefits if you could do that and have a high rate of usage for those systems. You could really significantly lower the amount of injuries on road. But the problem is, how do you build that trust and confidence between unknown actors so you dare to act on the information? Does that make some sense?
Oh, it definitely does. Thank you. It's great.
Yep.
Great with questions, and great to continue the discussion even after this event. We will share contact details with you all. I'm not seeing any more hands right now. Thank you so much, Benny, for joining us. It's so valuable to have the industry insights and to really open up to talk about the different challenges and the different opportunities that lies in this co-development that we're moving in towards in the future. And as Benny mentioned, we've really seen this switch in Sweden during the last couple of years. We've seen more industrial collaboration. We've seen more of an openness towards working with startups and seeing actual commercial deals happening, which is making me, with this strong startup heart beating in my chest, really, really happy. That was all for today. I want to promote the next one that is happening in 2 weeks. It's the same time, same channel, will be the same Zoom channel, and that then we'll meet Scania, focusing more on trucks, on what is happening within that area, but also going into more like smart manufacturing, because they also have some interesting challenges in that. And then also, of course, the 7th of December. If you want more information about the soft landing program, you're always welcome to visit ai.se, and they're under international partner offering and international tab. You'll find more about the soft landing program. You'll also find some more information about it in the invitation you got into your calendars today, and also a sign up link for the next event. With that said, I want to say thank you for participating in today's event, for attending. Thank you so much, Alexander and Alexander, for joining, and especially a big thanks to you, Benny, for sharing the insights from Zenseact. And I'll hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you so much, all.